Hello everyone, welcome to Sharmit. In this session, we are going to discuss about another very important example related to MCP, where we will be discussing how to implement resources in server that can be accessed or read by the client. Okay, so we will proceed in the same way. Firstly, I'll walk you through the syntax and structure of entire source code. Okay, and then we will test the output as well. Okay, so by the end of this session you will be able to understand what is resource, how to create it, how to access it in a client, okay, and overall theoretical questions related to interviews and exam. But before we proceed further with this session, I would like to recommend you to please go and check out the previously released session first, because they all are in proper sequence and sync. So if you follow it sequentially, then it would be much more easier for you to understand the ongoing topic, because for time being we are just mainly focusing on what is resources and how to implement it. But prior to that, you should know about all the stuffs that we have already covered, because this is 7th session, so there are 6 other sessions that you can follow to grab the concepts easily. And for that you can also refer the Sharmit digital course book, because there you will find thousands of sessions available in both Hindi as well as English language, which will help you to understand the things in a sequential way and without any language barrier, of course, because it is available in both languages, Hindi as well as English. And in case if you found any questions related to that, you can simply reach out to me through comment section. Okay, alright, so let's see what is resources. We have already discussed, so now it's time to see how we can implement it. Okay, practical thing. So in server file, firstly, like I imported the FastMCP, which is nothing but a tool that will help you to create the server. Then on line number 19, I just created my server, so I just write MCP equal FastMCP resource server. Okay, that means whenever we want to identify the server, it will be identified with this name. After that, we created our first resource, which is a fixed resource, no variable in this URL. Okay, so this always returns the same content like a static page. Okay, now remember this thing carefully. Okay, instead of tool, this time we are creating resources. That's why we are using the decorated @mcp.resource. Okay, and in parameter we are passing info://about. Now what is this? This is URI, uniform resource identifier. Okay, we discussed that thing in our last session in detail, but for now just remember this thing, that it's a ID through which we can read the resource in client. Okay, then we simply created the method getAboutInfo str, and then we are returning this is a demo MCP server created by the learning purpose. Okay, so this is my first resource example. Now my second resource example is a bit different, because here we are using dynamic resource, which uses a variable in the URL. Okay, so for that you need to create the resource decorator like this: MCP resource profile://username. Okay, so whatever value we will pass from there will be received as username, and then we are just simply printing it: profile for username, status active, role learner. Okay, so I think this part is also clear. What is second type of resource? Now some of you might be thinking, like, with resources can we call tool? Yes, definitely you can create and call tool. So for that we need to change the decorator, because this time we are using the tool. So I just write it define add, which is just for the add operation, receiving two values A and B and performing the addition on it and returning the value. Clear? Alright, so I think server wise we are good, right? We know how to create the resource, and two types of resource we created. One is static and one is dynamic. Now it's time to understand how basically we will use these resources in the client. So before that, you can see there are few things that we have imported, including async IO, client session, studio server parameters, studio client. Okay, then we created one method, that is async define main function, for server underscore params studio server parameters, then we are passing two things, one is command and one is argument. Remember, with these two parameters we are telling that we want to execute it through command Python, and argument is providing the file name, like which file we want to execute. Okay, and then we use async with studio client server params as read write, async with client session read write as session. Then we simply establish the connection, so await session dot initialize, and we just noted down the print down the message connection successful. So till here whatever we are writing is something that is fixed. Okay, you can notice like this thing we kept almost in every example because this is mandatory part. Okay, all right, now after that, this time we are using or reading the resources, not the tools. Okay, that's why the method is also changed. Okay, how? See, on line number 40 we are using await session dot read resources info colon slash slash about. Okay, so because this is a resource, so we are using the method dot resource. Okay, and we are storing the information into about result, about result, and then from there we are fetching it because it's a collection, so dot content 0 dot text. So whatever value we will receive, whatever message we are receiving from here will be stored here. But you can see that URI is very important. Okay, because if you don't know URI, it won't work. Second thing is dynamic resource, where we plug in the value wherein user name was. Okay, so you can see await session dot read resource profile slash slash rohan 123. That value will be passed to the class, to the server. Then whatever output we will get will be stored and printed like this. And of course, like along with resources you can also call the tool. So yeah, but before tool, let me show you one thing. Let's say if you want to list all the resources that the server has similar to the list tools. Okay, so in that case you can write await session dot list resources, and then it print static resources available for res in resource underscore response dot resources, and then we are printing the resource URI and resource name. So not resource, sorry, result. Okay, and then we are normally calling the tool which is for add operation. So I just provided the required parameters and we are calculating and printing it. Okay, so I think we are good with this. So let's try to execute the code and see what output we are getting. So Python, so I'll just press enter here. Within few seconds it will show me the output, and you can see firstly it provide connection successful, then info colon slash slash about. This is a demo MCP server created for learning purposes. Then we populated the next message for profile, which is coming from the dynamic resource, and then we are showing the list of static URL. Okay, like about, get info about. Okay, and then we are calling then we have populated the output that is coming from the tool. So yeah, these are the all steps that you are supposed to follow in order to use or read the resources through MCP server. Okay, so now you guys can do the practice, because these are the very important questions, like these are the very important concepts. If you follow it and implement it at the same time, then it would be much more easier for you to remember it. Okay, and as we always ask you one question in the interview, so today's question is, what Python type hint do we add to a parameter to make it optional MCP tool? Okay, so let's say if you want to pass an optional parameter in MCP tool, then in that case we will simply ask, like we are asking simply what kind of hint you provide in the tool. So you just need to reply with it. Okay, so yeah, I think we are good. Please do share your knowledge in the comment section, because when you comment your answers, it will help others also to identify the actual answer through comment, and also it will give me the notification that you are referring the sessions. So on the basis of that only I release more and more sessions to this series. So yeah, that's all for today. See you in the next session with new topics. So thank you for watching Tech Sharmit.